What if the ones we trust the most turn out to be the ones we should fear? What drives young minds to commit unthinkable acts of violence? Join us as we delve into the chilling stories of youthful perpetrators, their twisted motives, and the haunting consequences of their actions. But before we jump into that, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Kosta Kecmanovic. On May 3, 2023, in Belgrade, Serbia, a terrible incident shocked everyone. A 13-year-old boy named Kosta Kecmanovic went to his school and started shooting. He killed 8 students and a security guard. Kosta seemed like any other kid when he went to school that day, but he had a dark plan in his mind. He confessed over the phone to the police that he had shot several people. He started by shooting a security guard and 2 girls in the hallway. Then he went to his classroom and shot more students. He wounded 5 others too. After making a scary call to the police, Kosta surrendered without a fight. But because he was only 13, he couldn't be charged with a crime in Serbia. Instead, he was sent to a psychiatric hospital. It was revealed that Kosta had been planning this for a month. He even went to a shooting range with his father, who owned the guns. Kosta's family was well known in Belgrade, but that didn't stop the tragedy. Kosta's parents were arrested too. His father was accused of teaching him about guns and not securing them properly. His mother was charged with neglecting Kosta. Kosta later admitted in court that his father taught him how to shoot and praised his accuracy. He also mentioned being influenced by a video game and a documentary about mass murder. He said he regretted what he did and wished he could go back in time. It's a heartbreaking story, and nothing can bring back the lives lost. On March 24, 1998, something terrible happened at a middle school in Arkansas. 2 boys, Mitchell Johnson, who was 13, and Andrew Golden, who was 11, carried out a horrible attack. They planned it for months. They weren't close friends, they barely knew each other except for riding the same bus to school. Mitchell had a tough family life, didn't get along with his dad, and was known for being a bully. He even talked about joining a gang and had been in trouble before. Andrew, on the other hand, seemed like a good kid, polite and well-liked, but he had a hidden dark side. He enjoyed shooting animals and had a cruel streak. As the day of the attack got closer, the boys bonded over their twisted plan. They stole guns and ammo from Andrew's grandfather and waited for the right moment. They set off the fire alarm at school and started shooting at random. They shouted confusing things to scare people. They killed 4 students and a teacher and injured many more. Because they were so young, they couldn't be tried as adults. They were found guilty in a juvenile court and were sentenced to stay confined until they turned 21, the maximum punishment for their age in Arkansas. But trouble didn't end there for Mitchell and Andrew. Mitchell was released when he turned 21 but got into more trouble. He was arrested for having drugs and a loaded gun in his car. He got more years in prison for other crimes he committed while he was free. Andrew, now going by a different name, tried to start a new life in Missouri but couldn't hide who he was. He applied for a gun permit under his new name but got denied because he lied about his past. He stayed out of the public eye until he died in a car crash in 2019. It's a sad story of 2 young boys who did something terrible and the consequences they faced. Michael Hernandez. When Michael Hernandez was just 14, he became really interested in serial killers. Instead of doing normal teenage stuff like playing video games or hanging out with friends, he spent all his time reading about these terrible criminals. His fascination with them took a scary turn when he decided he wanted to be like them. Thankfully, he was stopped before he could hurt more people, but tragically, he did kill 1 person. On February 3, 2004, Michael went to his school in Palmetto Bay, Florida, armed with a knife, gloves, and a big jacket. He planned to kill his friend Andre Martin, but Andre said no when Michael asked him to go to the bathroom. So Michael asked another friend, Jamie Goff, to go with him. Sadly, Jamie trusted Michael and went with him. Once they were in the bathroom, Michael attacked Jamie from behind, stabbing him 42 times and then cutting his throat. After that, Michael just went back to class like nothing happened. But a teacher noticed his hands were bloody, and another student found Jamie's body. The police arrested Michael and found the knife in his backpack. They also found his journal, where he had written a list of people he wanted to kill, including his own sister. Michael tried to say he was insane, but the court didn't believe him. In September 2008, he got a life sentence. Then, on April 29, 2021, he died in prison from a heart problem caused by being very overweight. He was 31 years old. Jasmine Richardson. Jasmine Richardson, at just 12 years old, became Canada's youngest multiple murder suspect alongside her 23-year-old boyfriend, Jeremy Steinke. On April 23, 2006, they brutally killed Jasmine's entire family in Palmetto Bay, Florida. After a neighbor discovered the gruesome scene, Jasmine and Jeremy were found 100 miles away and arrested for 3 counts of first-degree murder. Their disturbing motive stemmed from Jasmine's infatuation with Jeremy, who believed he was a 300-year-old werewolf. Despite her parents' disapproval, they remained devoted to each other. Jasmine's chilling messages about their plan surfaced, revealing their sinister intentions. During the attack, Jeremy killed Jasmine's parents downstairs while Jasmine fatally stabbed her brother upstairs. The trial lasted a month, and Jasmine was sentenced to the maximum allowed under the Youth Criminal Justice Act in Canada, 10 years in prison. Jeremy received 3 concurrent life sentences. It's a tragic example of how young people can make horrifying choices even against their own families. Mason Sisk. Mason Sisk, aged 14 at the time, committed a horrific crime on September 2, 2019 in Elkmont, Alabama. Annoyed by his family, he coldly shot his parents and 3 siblings in the head. Mason, now 18, received a life sentence without parole on September 7, 2023. Despite his young age during the murders, the judge described his actions as ghastly and draped in unmitigated evil. Found guilty on 4 counts of capital murder, Mason's trial lasted a month, with the jury taking less than 2 hours to reach a verdict. Family members spoke in court, grieving the loss of their loved ones. Mason's grandmother, upon learning the truth, suffered a fatal heart attack. Mason initially lied to police but later confessed to the murders, citing frustration with family arguments. His violent tendencies were evident, including a previous attempt to harm his stepmother. David Braum. David Braum, on his 18th birthday, received a guilty verdict for brutally killing his father, mother, and 2 siblings with an axe in Rochester, Minnesota on October 3, 1989. He was sentenced to 3 life terms in prison. David, suffering from severe depression, had a history of suicidal attempts and had talked about killing his family for months. A dispute over a cassette tape led to the tragedy. Despite his claims of insanity, the jury ruled against him. David is serving his sentence in the Minnesota Correctional Facility in Stillwater and won't be eligible for parole until he turns 70. Daniel Bartlam. On April 25, 2011, a fire erupted in a suburban house in Nottingham, England. Firefighters rushed to the scene and discovered the body of Jacqueline Bartlam, a 47-year-old mother, who had been brutally beaten to death with a hammer before the fire was intentionally set. Her son, Daniel Bartlam, initially claimed that an intruder attacked his mother, but his story quickly fell apart under police scrutiny. Daniel's younger brother contradicted his account, leading to suspicion falling on Daniel himself. Eventually, he confessed to the murder, admitting that he had planned it for weeks. Inspired by a violent storyline from the TV show Coronation Street, Daniel blurred the line between reality and fiction, acting out his twisted fantasy of committing the perfect murder. During his trial in February 2012, Daniel pled guilty to manslaughter, claiming he lost control during an argument over shoes. However, the prosecution presented evidence of his premeditation, including research, stories, and a confession. The jury found him guilty of murder and sentenced him to life in prison with a minimum of 16 years. The judge described the crime as grotesque and senseless, suggesting that Daniel had sought to commit the perfect murder. On April 6, 2019, tragedy struck a quiet night in Goodfield, Illinois, when a fire engulfed a mobile home, claiming the lives of 5 people. Among the survivors was 9-year-old Kyle Alwood. Initially seen as a heartbreaking accident, the investigation unveiled a shocking truth: Kyle was responsible for the fire. Kyle Alwood. The reasons behind Kyle's actions remain unclear due to his young age. Some speculate that he may not have fully understood the consequences of his actions. However, prosecutors argued that Kyle intentionally started the fire and comprehended its gravity. Despite the uncertainty, Kyle was arrested and charged with multiple counts of murder and arson. During the trial, Kyle appeared small and bewildered, barely reaching the back of his chair. He was accompanied only by his paternal grandfather, while his mother, Katie Alwood, was bound by a gag order preventing her from discussing the case publicly. Before the order, Katie defended her son, emphasizing that he was not a monster but a child who made a terrible mistake. The victims of the fire were Kyle's relatives, including Katie's other children, her grandmother, her fiancé, and her niece. Katie, who managed to escape the blaze, described Kyle as a loving boy diagnosed with schizophrenia, ADHD, and bipolar disorder, deserving of a second chance. Ricky Caso. On July 2, 1984, a chilling discovery shook the peaceful town of Northport, New York. A phone call alerted the police to a body in the secluded Aya woods, leading them to find the decomposed remains of a young man named Gary Lowers. He had been brutally stabbed multiple times in the face, back, and neck. The prime suspect was 17-year-old Ricky Caso, known locally for his drug use and fascination with satanic rituals. Caso confessed to the murder, claiming it was a sacrificial killing in revenge for Lowers stealing his drugs. He even took friends to the woods to show them the body, proclaiming himself a servant of the devil. Caso and his accomplice James Troiano were arrested after a night of partying and drug use. During interrogation, Caso admitted to hearing voices and feeling possessed by the devil during the murder. Despite his father blaming drugs for his downfall, Caso's motive also stemmed from personal vendetta against Lowers for a previous theft. However, Caso's demise came swiftly when he committed suicide in his jail cell just 48 hours after being arrested. The murder shocked the community, leaving unanswered questions and a lingering sense of horror in Northport. However, not everyone shared Katie's sentiments. Samantha Alwood, Katie's sister who lost her daughter in the fire, believed Kyle should be held accountable for his actions, even if unintentional. The trial continues, with Kyle facing a maximum of 5 years of probation due to his young age if found guilty. Cindy Collier and Shirley Wolfe. In June 1983, in Sacramento, California, 85-year-old Anna Brackett opened her door to two teenage girls, Cindy Collier and Shirley Wolfe, believing their tale of being chased by men. Little did Anna know, Cindy and Shirley harbored dark intentions. They sought to steal Anna's car to escape their troubled lives, but instead perpetrated a horrific crime. In a brutal attack, Cindy and Shirley stabbed, strangled, and beat Anna to death. Despite Anna's pleas for mercy, the girls showed no remorse. They confessed to the murder without hesitation, revealing their callous disregard for human life. Both Cindy and Shirley came from tumultuous backgrounds marked by abuse and violence. Their shared rage against the world led them to commit this heinous act. The girls were swiftly apprehended thanks to vigilant neighbors, and they were sentenced to 8 years in juvenile detention for first-degree murder and burglary. Their actions shattered the peace of a community and ended the life of a kind-hearted woman who had shown them compassion. As we conclude these chilling narratives, we're confronted with the unsettling truth of innocence lost and the depths of human depravity. Join us for more thought-provoking content by liking, sharing, and subscribing to my channel.